Today on Typical Chicago Fans, we have Sinkers and Floaters, the TCF Sports Minute, our media recommendations, a TCF Food review, a college football preview interview with Bobby Wilson, and the TCF top 3 of the college football stadiums and atmospheres. Let's roll. Hello and welcome back to Typical Chicago Fans. It is episode 112. Make sure to follow us on the main page at typical_Chicago. You can find me on Twitter at BoomyTCF. Head over to the Facebook and the Instagram pages. Give those pages a like. Subscribe to the YouTube page for all of our content in video form. Subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts, we are there. You can find Zach on Twitter as well at ZLiliaTCF. But we are also brought to you by our incredible sponsors, 26shirts.com/Chicago and Connect Roasters. Zach, episode 112, my man. How we doing this week? Football's right around the corner.
I cannot wait. We have week 1 of college football. Unfortunately, we have to wait 2 weeks for the NFL regular season between the preseason, but I guess we can wait. The weather's starting to get a little cooler out. You can just smell fall coming.
Kind of feel it in the air. It was really hot last week. Great week for our air conditioning to go out, but now it's starting to drop a little bit. I know we're in the high 70s, low 80s, but you're right on that. You can kind of feel it right around the corner.
I cannot wait. I love just like 70, 75. Like you said, the last week or so we've had humidity. At least the humidity is gone. Hopefully, until next summer. But like you said, you can smell fall. You can smell football. We got football right around the corner here. We had week 1, which was all right. But week 1 college football will be exciting.
Absolutely. Week 0, we got by. There's a couple games on, not many, but we have obviously a very loaded football podcast this week. We have an incredible interview coming up with our guy, Bobby Wilson of TNT College Football Podcast. We'll get into that later. But as always, let's jump into it. Sinkers and floaters. My sinker is special teams. The Lions apparently cut all of their kickers. They're obviously going to bring someone in.
And we had a kicker trade too.
Yes, and I was gonna. There was a kicker. The Packers released J.K. Scott, their punter, traded for a punter. You don't see that very often. And apparently, it was just a money deal. I like J.K. Scott a lot, but they released him and basically saved him like $500,000. I'm sure it's salary cap stuff induced, but yeah, you don't see a lot of those. So special teams was on the hot seat today. That's for sure.
Yeah, my sinker is the Mets. Just the organization, the fans. I think it was, yes, I know Javi Baez, you shouldn't have done the thumbs down for whatever reason because, you don't want to light the fire more. But to boo him like that, and it just seems like, I don't know. The Mets fans seem like they just love to complain.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, the Mets have not won a World Series since the 80s. So I don't know really who they think that they're cheering for, but like you're the Mets and they're constantly on guys like Lindor and Javi, which are perennial all-stars. And, you can only take so much before you get pissed off. And I think that the Mets fans are just idiots, but that's just my opinion.
Well, no, my thing is I don't mind every once in a while getting mad, but like you got to understand, like they were in the World Series in 2015 when they swept the Cubs.
Yep.
It's one of those things you can't just be so angry all the time about the Mets.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I love Frank the Tank. We've had him on here a bunch of times. Really nice guy. Love the guy, but at some point you can't just keep getting mad all the time at the Mets. They end up winning today on Javi Baez. Hustled out a single from first base, and that's what you're going to get with Javi. I understand he can go on streaks of swinging at a lot of pitches he probably shouldn't, striking out a lot, but that's just what you get. And maybe we're just too nice of a fan base, Boomy.
That might be it.
And you know what? I've heard worse criticism than you're too nice of a fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good problem to have, that's for sure. I'll move into my floater, and that is Zeb Nolan. You might not have ever heard of Zeb Nolan, but he was a quarterback at Iowa State. He took a grad assistant position at South Carolina. And obviously, with COVID, he technically still has eligibility left, but he was on staff as a grad assistant. And South Carolina's starting quarterback got hurt last week, and they opened their season up this weekend. So Zeb Nolan, who was the grad assistant, is going to be their starting quarterback. I'm not sure how that works as far as like, I know that grad assistants get some sort of stipend, but obviously with eligibility left, I don't know. It's not even for me to even worry about, but it is weird that they're basically plucking a guy out of the coach's office to run the starting quarterback position. So if I give any advice here, it's to fade South Carolina this weekend, because whoever they're playing, you're going to be seeing a guy who probably hasn't taken an in-game snap in a very, very long time, who was there to be a coach. I'm sure he wasn't taking great care of his body, but imagine being there to be a grad assistant. They're like, hey, by the way, Zeb, you're starting this week.
Yeah, we're gonna need you to go out there, and we're gonna need you to be the quarterback. Unfortunately, we don't have a quarterback right now,
Right.
and
Zach, don't you expect this out of like, not to take shots, but like Missouri State, or Kansas State, or like not an SEC school in South Carolina? Like, that's bad.
that's crazy that they would not have backups.
That seems like a Fresno State thing, not South Carolina. That is
But hey,
very, very
maybe
strange.
we'll see a miracle story. He'll go out there, throw a few touchdowns, they'll win the game. That'd be
And we're
awesome.
gonna get into some sports movies later. Maybe they'll end up making a movie out of it.
Well, this goes right into my floater, which is football. Football, just the time of year where anything can happen. Even college football, the upsets, the especially with last year. No, not a lot of no. I don't think college football really had fans
Some
too much,
places
did
did.
they?
Yeah,
Some
some
places
places
did.
did, especially in the South.
So that will be fully back. The atmosphere of all the places, like you said, we'll get into that in our top three with college football atmospheres, but not just college football. We got the NFL coming back around. It's that time of year, Boomy. It's that time of year.
We're almost to the days where we can turn the TV on at 10 a.m., watch an hour of game day, and literally just watch college football from 10 a.m. until 1, maybe sometimes 2 a.m. And it, like you said, it's right around the corner. But let's go ahead and jump into our TCF Sports Minute. Zach, we got to start, like you said, the NFL season's right around the corner. The Bears had their final preseason game last weekend. Andy Dalton's named the starter. I don't think that's shocking to anybody.
No,
At
it's
least,
not.
I
But
mean, it should be.
you see what organizations like the Patriots, they know Mac Jones is going to be the quarterback. I have also heard you never know what happened with the Cam Newton stuff. Maybe some happened. Who knows why he really got released? But they're going with Mac Jones. They're going right into it because they believe in him. I feel like maybe the Bears should do the same thing.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of what I thought. But the weird thing to me, and you can speak on this a little bit more than I can, but they said they're going to have Justin Fields run the scout team quarterback. Here's my question: Is that a smart thing to do to get this kid acclimated to the NFL game, or do you think you're just wasting his time? Because he's not. Obviously, he's a professional. He's going to be learning the offense, but is he going to be able to commit all of his time to learning the offense when it's time for him to take over, when he's got to learn the other team's offense for practice that week? That just seems dumb to me.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, Boomy. I think that, and they go, oh well, why would you want to throw him out there against like Aaron Donald and the Rams? Well, you understand that there's a lot of other defensive linemen in this league that are the same size who will be playing against in week 4, week 10, week 12. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just be afraid of
Yes.
one team. You can't just be like, we're gonna hold them back because we're afraid of this team. Um, I think they should give him a chance right away. They're not going to. You already know how Matt Nagy is going to play it, and that's why I'm not the biggest fan of Matt Nagy, because I feel like he's playing more for his job and not for what is good for this team.
I think so too. I think we've clearly seen in the preseason. I mean, you could show a side by side video of
Oh,
some of the plays that Andy Dalton made compared to the plays that
and
Justin
imagine
Fields
if he
made.
would have gotten all the reps as QB1 and more
Well,
time
not
as
even
the
that.
with the
Imagine if he
first
got to
team and
play with
stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. What if you got to play with, first round or first
But
string
no, we have
defense
to
or
do
offensive lineman?
what he thinks is right for the process and this and that. It's like, no, you want to do this because this is what will slowly save your job.
Yeah, exactly. So
Maybe.
they can go into next year and say, "Hey, we saw what Justin Fields had in the last 6 weeks of the season. We're on the right path. We're gonna right this ship." And like you said, it's a way to save a job. Last thing on the Bears, Riley Ridley, for unfortunately was on the chopping block today. One of the names I kind of scrolled through. The Score app had a really nice um, a cut tracker. And Riley Ridley's name was the one that kind of jumped off the Bears sheet to me the most.
He's
Is
been
that
in
kind
and
of
out of the wide receiver spots for the last few years. It's always been one of those you hope he can break out this season. You hope he can break out this season. I just think that they see more talent in some of these other guys, and I'm not mad about it. I'm fine with if you think that these guys are going to be more with the future or is going to help Justin Fields now. That's fine by me because I Ridley he's been there the last few
yeah,
years, but he's never really had those breakout moments.
right. And it's one of those kids where you feel like he has enough talent. It'd be interesting to see if he gets picked up by anybody, obviously, stashed away or whatever. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see if he can get hooked up with the right quarterback and the right system. He does have the athletic tools, but obviously it hasn't been there over the last couple years. Do you also worry that the Bears being semi-thin at wide receiver, that maybe they just kind of saw the writing on the wall that it wasn't going to work out for him? Because obviously the Bears aren't the deepest at the wide receiver position.
No, but maybe they see more talent and more possibility of working right now in some of the other players.
Okay, good call, good
And like you
call.
said, he's had plenty of chances too.
Yeah, you're not wrong. He has definitely gotten his opportunities. And the other name that kind of jumped off to me, Desmond Truffant. You've probably heard that name before. He was a cornerback. He it was either signed or traded to the Bears on like August 13th and left the team on August 15th because his father had passed away and he never reported to camp. So they cut him. I believe Desmond Truffant has been in a Pro Bowl. But that was the other name that kind of jumped off. Zach, did you have anything on Desmond Truffant getting cut?
No, like I said, the situation is a little. Um, you don't want to get into the whole why. Like, you would hope that the Bears didn't do it for bad reasons.
Right.
Um, but I think that he's going to find a good team.
Yeah, he's definitely talented. He's been there before, and we'll see where he bounces back. In other
But
NFL news,
whenever you start the sentence by saying, or the conversation by
yeah,
saying that he had
he
to
hasn't shown
leave
up to
because
camp.
but because of his father passing away, is
Right.
it's like, well, maybe you should, maybe, but you never know what's going on. Maybe they should give him a chance. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. In other NFL news, as Zach alluded to earlier, Cam Newton was cut today by the Patriots. Mac Jones named the starter. Do you think Mac Jones has what it takes to be an impact quarterback in the I'm not even saying this year, within the next 2 years? Because I mean, obviously he had a great season at Alabama, but to me, it's like look at the guys he was throwing to,
And
and
you got
it'll
to
be
prove that you can throw to wide receivers who aren't going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. You know what I mean? Like he had two of the best wide receivers in college football, probably top 5, top 10. You had a few of them
yeah,
on his team. It's like you had so much talent around you at Alabama. What are you going to do now with a team in the Patriots who have talent? They're every NFL player is talented, but it's not going to be the way it is at Alabama.
definitely, definitely. And
But Bill
honestly, Zach,
Belichick, you could
that's
I can
exactly
see
it.
Bill Belichick doing a lot of crazy things. So you never know.
And he couldn't have found a better or a coach to be handed the reins,
Yeah.
to or from
But
anyway.
there was I did see some a player came out and said that he thinks that Bill Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady.
Yeah, we'll see. This is kind of a prove it year after what
Yeah.
Tom did last year. And the other NFL news: the Saints will probably not play the first part of their season in New Orleans
Yeah,
after the hurricane last
they're
week.
practicing at Dallas's stadium right now.
Yep. And
And
so they
we'll
play the
probably for like
Packers.
the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, they play the Packers week 1, and the rumor is that it's very unlikely that that game will be played in New Orleans. They were talking about moving it to Dallas. However, the Cowboys Stadium is hosting a concert that day,
Is
so
it
that's
impossible
probably
to
not going to
make
happen.
it a home game for the Packers? Like, is that not possible?
I don't think
Maybe
so.
I'm guessing that'll
Obviously,
mess something up, the amount of home games and away games you're supposed to
yeah,
have. But that's
yeah,
just off.
it'll
That's awful what's going on in Louisiana too,
right.
with the hurricane. It just that stuff just sucks so much.
That's exactly it, and it's so much out of their
And
control.
all these people
Obviously,
that say, "Oh, why do you live there?" What are you talking about? Why does anyone live anywhere?
yeah, yeah, you can literally pick any
The
place.
people are like, "Oh,
It
why
is
would you
one of
not
those.
live in a place that there's a hurricane?" It's like, well, we live in a place that almost had a tornado.
Yeah, and the West Coast has, earthquakes and, basically you could pick anywhere
Yeah,
and, look at anything. Now, what will probably end up happening is they will find a stadium, probably in Texas, if I had to guess, possibly Florida. One of the NFL stadiums that game might get moved to a Monday night game or possibly even a Tuesday night or something along those lines where they can get an NFL venue so they don't have to play at a college stadium. But that's about all I got on NFL news. You got anything else, Zach?
no, I'm just ready for it to start. I think it waiting a week for the NFL waiting a week for it to start, just dumb. 2 weeks, I mean.
Absolutely. Cubs and Sox talk. Cubs
Ugh,
57
Cubs.
and 75, 23 games out, 13 and a half out of the wild card.
But I mean, we don't
But
have to do this to ourselves.
no, but there is a thing in Major League Baseball. Tomorrow is September, or today when this comes out is September 1st. Rosters can expand. So you'll be seeing some guys get their first shots.
Which
Normally
I'm
we've
loving
been
to
seeing
see.
a
And
lot of
I
that,
love
but
to see the talent that the Cubs are kind of bringing up. It's fun to watch that all. We got Hermosillo playing well and all that, but it is tough to watch right now. And I understand it's all going to be for a better team will be down the way, but right now the
yeah,
Mets fans are arguing about having a team that's in a playoff run or a
yeah,
playoff hunt. They aren't in a playoff
yeah.
run. They're in the playoff
Literally
hunt
three
because
games out, I think, or something like that.
yeah, give me
So
a break.
yeah, White Sox 75 and 56. I wrote 66. That's not right. They're 10 up on the division.
Lance Lynn to the IL,
That's
which
tough.
is it's tough, but also it's probably one of those things. You got a pretty decent lead in the division. You don't want anything to happen to Lance Lynn that would hurt him for the playoffs. So I think that they're doing the right thing here, putting him on the IL. If you feel anything, and just kind of like you said, you got a good lead right now. You still have a good starting rotation without him. You wish you would have him, but you do not want him hurt
Exactly. And here's the way
for
I
the
look at it,
playoff for
Zach.
the playoffs.
Definitely. The White Sox currently have the third best record in the American League. They are not going to catch the Tampa Bay Rays. The Tampa Bay Rays have 7 more wins than they do. They're probably not going to catch that. They do have a chance to catch the Astros, who have 78 wins. So they're not going to fall out of the top 3. But if they were able to get a push here late to move up to that second best record and be the host of your first round series, that would help a little bit. But obviously, you want to make sure
They're
you
still
have a guy like
talented though. They're a very
yeah,
talented team even without Lance Lynn. So I
yep,
still think they have a chance of doing that, especially because they still have divisional games left too.
absolutely. And like you said, Zach, the whole hobby controversy, I just think it's
Ugh,
it, I
I
had
miss
to bring
Javi.
that up.
Bring
I
him
know,
back. He deserves to be on this team, even though it's not a very good team. He
yep,
doesn't deserve that. And the Mets fans cheering him one day, booing him the next day. It gets old.
yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. And like you said, you're more than welcome to boo a player, but like to just a constant,
And I
you
think
know,
same with that. He's more than welcome to do the thumbs down. Like he shouldn't. And
yes,
where I think the whole problem is, and I said it with my sinker, it's the Mets organization. For them to
yep,
have like a counter to what he said in any sort of form is stupid. For them to even bring it up, address it, is dumb. Let
yep.
Javi say what he wants. Let it move on. He doesn't need to apologize. And come on, man. Like this is
Yeah.
it's just dumb.
It's dumb and it's tiring. And the people that, oh, we pay your salary. Shut up. You don't understand how business works. Yes, there's, a very good portion of tickets, but there's a lot more than that. So chill out, quit being, dicks to the guy. And he's a passionate player. It's not like the guy doesn't go out there and try hard. He's struggling at the plate. And yes, if he was on the Cubs, I'd be, saying he's struggling at the plate, but, to just be, barraging the guy
we used to
with
say,
it.
I've never shied away from saying that Javi doesn't have his struggles at the plate sometimes, but he also is an electric player, has a play like he does at the end of the game to win the game from going from first to third on a hit to left field. It's like you got to take the good with the bad, and you can't just always overreact too.
Exactly. It's a whole lot of overreaction. So, and last thing I got for you, Zach, actually I got two more things. This is second to last one. Is Bryson DeChambeau good for golf? I know he's one of the most
Yes.
hateable athletes on the planet, but is that good for the sport of golf?
Yes, they need a guy like that. They need a villain. I know Brooks he's not really the villain. He's he gets into an argument with Bryson and stuff like that, but I think Bryson is good for golf. I mean, if you have somebody that I think Patrick Reed is good for golf. I think the guys who can be the villain, like you don't need the guys who are always out there trying to follow the rules and going by this and
Yeah.
that. It's like I think yes, with him and Cantley in that final round, when he told him that he needed to step backwards so he wasn't in front of him when he was hitting, like as much as that annoys people, it annoys me. It's good for golf
Right.
because that's people are watching to see stuff like that now.
Exactly. If you think about it this way, Happy Gilmore would not have been as good of a movie had it not been for Shooter McGavin. So that's kind of the way I look at it in golf. And the last thing, Zach, I got to bring up, what in the hell is ESPN doing putting Bishop, what was it? Bishop
That's insane. I mean, they're really not getting
Shepard
as
or
much blowback as they should for this because, I mean, that's awful. I mean,
yeah.
how do you not realize that this team and like some of the stories that are coming out now about it? First of all, they played 2 games in 3 days, which is dangerous for the team. Then
It's
they're like
actually illegal in most states to play that many
they're
games.
promising all this stuff, and the one of the kids was saying that they had to go rob like Walmart and stuff like that just to get food, and they were sleeping on the floors of houses and stuff. It's just like it's insane that ESPN, an organization or whatever they are, um, they didn't do their research at all, at
No,
all. Like, how did someone get away with this?
that's exactly what I was thinking. That's so bad. ESPN, I mean, I
And
was
I mean,
talking to a
it's
buddy
a
about it.
really bad look too because it's dangerous. Like, what if somebody would have gotten hurt or exhaustion or something like that?
Yeah, that could have been really bad. And IMG is obviously the best team in the country. And then,
Because
how does
yeah, now
ESPN
you look
not vet
back
this
at
out?
it, and in a way, it's like, ha ha, yeah, like it's crazy that someone got away with that. It's funny in a
Well, not
way,
even
but
that,
like
Zach. Think about it this
it's
way.
dangerous.
Think about it this way. IMG has probably 20 to 30 guys that are going to play Division One football. What if one of these kids who was allegedly like 23 years old, rolls over on him and, blows his knee out, blows his ankle? I know that's exaggerating, but like you got to do your due diligence when you're ESPN. They've definitely
That's it's
lost
just nuts that
some credibility there.
they let that happen. So dangerous too, just so
That's so
dangerous.
bad. So bad. Well, that was the TCF Sports Minute. But before we move on, we have to make sure we thank our great friends over at 26shirts.com Chicago. Head over to their website, 26shirts.com/Chicago, to check out some of the best Chicago merch around. I got my Chicago hockey right here, as always. They've got everything from t-shirts, hats, hoodies, flags, whatever you need. They have it. It fits great. It's some of the best that I own. Head over to their website, find the product that you love, and use promo code typical Chicago fans at checkout for 15% off of your order. If you love our show, love great Chicago merch that fits better than anything you can find, head over to 26shirts.com/Chicago. Pick up some of the great items that they have and use promo code typical Chicago fans for 15% off of your order. Zach, let's go ahead and move into our media recommendations, but we're going to do a little bit differently this week. I've got a list of 10 sports movies, and I want you to pick your favorite 3. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, so our 10 sports movies this week are Space Jam, the original, Coach Carter, Hoosiers, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams, Remember the Titans, Radio, Varsity Blues, Friday Night Lights, and Miracle. Your top three.
I'm going to go Space Jam, Coach Carter. Wait. Go through the first five now. What did you so is
Space Jam, Coach Carter, Hoosiers, Bull Durham, Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams. There we go.
Okay.
So I'm going Space Jam, Coach Carter, Field of Dreams.
All right.
Got all my sports there.
Yeah,
I guess I would need Miracle.
Yeah, true basketball, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to ask you in a second after I finish my top three, which movie you dislike the most out of that group. So I'm going to go Hoosiers. That's my favorite basketball movie. Field of Dreams, minus the want to have a catch line. Field of Dreams is my favorite baseball movie.
Get over that,
I'm gonna
dude.
go. What?
Get over that.
No, I will never get over that. And then my favorite football movie is probably. This is a toss-up. There's two really good ones here. I'm going to go. I think I like Friday Night Lights is my favorite football movie. Remember the Titans is right there with Friday Night Lights. But it is probably my favorite football related movie. Especially the first time you watch it when they don't score at the goal line. Oh my God. I felt my throat fall into my chest. Do you have one of these movies that you would say was your least? Bull Durham? Perfectly good baseball movie,
not a fan.
Ruined by a love story. I think it's a good baseball movie, but the whole like
the way, remember Major League, how they did the love story? That was cool.
Yeah, it was like an ancillary part of the movie.
Yeah, like
not
Bull Durham,
ingrained.
it was just like, oh, so sad and blah, blah. It's like, come on.
And next week for our media recommendations, I'm going to go only football movies. But I'm going to go with my least favorite, and Zach, you're going to tell me I'm an idiot, but it is Coach Carter of those 10. I think I've explained this before. Before I ever saw the movie, my dad went to a coach's clinic, and the real Coach Carter, who the movie is based off of, was there and told everybody that like all of the stuff in the movie. And I know this is every
don't ruin it now.
Well, I'm telling you, a lot of the major parts of it that were like so inspirational never happened. It's all Hollywood fabrication. And it just threw me off. I watched it and it just.
Let's move on before you ruin more movies.
The scene where Timo Cruz came in and ran his lines, that never happened.
Oh, good. Come on. Move on.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay, let's move on. I'm hungry. I know you're hungry, Zach. We're always hungry here. So we're going to jump into another TCF food review. We are back on our Hammond's candy bars. If you don't remember, we picked these up at a random gas station in the middle of Nebraska. Like we said, Hammond's candy. I have the red velvet cake chocolate candy bar.
I have
what do you
the
have, Zach?
soda pop. I think it's got it says fizzy popping candy inside of it.
Oh, this is that's probably like, what am I thinking? What are those called? What are those things you put in Pop Rocks?
Yeah, I'm not.
I was having a blank there. So this is nice. I love red velvet.
Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but
red.
There's a little. If you can see the Pop Rocks right there on there.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
I dig that. This one it's got a chocolate center. I know I'm a little far away from the camera. It's got a chocolate center.
Oh, and then no, I'm out.
You're out. Not good.
No, I don't like the Pop Rocks.
Oh, come on, man. Pop Rocks are great.
Oh,
that's fantastic. All right, Zach, your score out of 4. Oh.
I'll give it a 1.7.
Oh, that's disappointing. Is it just the Pop Rocks? Is the chocolate good at least?
Yeah, I had the same thing with some Oreos one time.
I remember you telling me about those.
Oh, man. It doesn't stop.
This is fantastic. I love red velvet. It's one of my favorite flavors of. Sorry, got a little chocolate stuck in my throat. One of my favorite, cake, any dessert flavors. I'm going to go 3.7 on the old red velvet cake, Hammond's candy bar. So if you ever see these, they got wacky flavors. Maybe if you don't like Pop Rocks, don't pick up the soda.
Oh yeah, I'm not nothing against the Hammonds have very good candy bars, but we don't need Pop Rocks on them.
I'm a big fan of this. This is The chicken and waffles one was different. This is definitely in the tops of the candy bars of theirs I have had so far. We'll make sure we got a couple more of those laying around. But before we move on, we got to introduce our next guest. Make sure to check out our friend Bobby Wilson at TNT Football Pod on Twitter. TNT College Football Podcast. Their is at TNT College Foot 1. This is our buddy Bobby Wilson. So we're going to throw it to our interview with him. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special guest we'd like to welcome to the podcast. He is a very close friend of mine, a great basketball mind, but he's here to talk about college football. He is the host of the TNT College Football Podcast. He spent all summer breaking down every single FBS team for the upcoming season. Yes, I mean all 130 plus teams in the FBS through this Twitter page for the podcast at TNT College Foot 1. You can follow him on Twitter at Coach B Will with 1L. Ladies and gentlemen, my buddy Bobby Wilson. Bobby, how are we doing tonight, my man?
Doing well, guys. Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here. Excited. This is gonna be
so
fun.
I got to start that. How much time per day did you spend breaking down every single FBS team? Because it took you, what, like 3 months?
It ended up taking about 2 months to do everything.
Okay.
And the way I did it is I tried to do 2 teams a day. Some days I did 3 or 4. Some days I wasn't able to do any, depending on the day. But I mean, I have 2 small kids, so I had to wait till they would go to bed to do everything.
Jeez.
So I would stay up till midnight or then wake up at 5 to go to my job. But it was a ton of fun. And I will say I'm more prepared for this college football season than I've ever been in my life. So
that's
super
incredible.
excited.
So did you use what was the guy's name? Is it Steele? Did you use him for a lot of your information?
Yeah, Phil Steele.
Yes.
I used him. I used Athlons. I used just a lot of independent research that I did. Twitter was obviously very helpful. Just able to find out a lot of things about people, about teams and programs and everything. So
you may know more football than anyone else in.
He's probably forgot more about this college football season than me and Zach know combined. I mean,
because they do research, but they don't do all the teams.
Right. They got one guy who does one team, or what like one guy does a conference or something, and but it's something that this whole idea is something that I've kind of been stewing over for a while. And with, like Chance said, I was a basketball coach for the longest time. I coached at the college level. My last job, I was an interim college women's head coach, and that kind of went one way. And this buddy of mine kind of kept poking and prodding at me, like, "Hey, start a podcast. Like, start doing this." And not a lot of people know this, but I've always kind of wanted to talk about college football. Like, if I could get paid to do that, that would be the coolest thing in the world to me. Now, I didn't play college football, so I know the in for me there isn't like it is for some of these other guys.
Field, yeah.
Right. So I'm like, well, let me just try and be knowledgeable and just polite to fan bases and see how it goes. Like, and that's been my whole thing. And the whole basis of what I'm trying to do is I want to attend all 130 FBS venues.
That'd be insane.
It's going to take a long time. Obviously, it's not just something I'm going to do in a couple years. And obviously with
especially not with little kids either.
Right. I don't want to put my wife through like, hey, I'm going to a different game every week.
Yeah, seriously. I'll see you in. We'll be able to have a date night in 16 weekends when the college football season's over. So I'll catch you then.
Right.
No, for sure. That's so. Let's go ahead and let's jump into it right away. We got to start off with Illinois schools. And my first question is Northwestern the best football team in the state of Illinois?
Absolutely. I definitely think so. I think they've proved that over the past handful of years. I think that they're still a contender in the Big Ten West. They got to figure out the quarterback situation, what they got going on there. That's going to be the main thing for them. But I think the number one thing that you see for them is like, I saw a tweet day out. Team in the country, and one of the teams that comes to mind for that is Northwestern, because they just play the right way. They just play super hard. Obviously,
Yeah,
they're super smart. I mean, the guys that go to Northwestern are another level of humans. But so
for sure.
I just think that they're, at least right now, they're at another level compared to everybody else.
And that's like you said, they get guys, they don't get, 5-star, blue chip guys. They got to live on, a couple 4-star guys that are smart enough to get into Northwestern, and then also banking on, 2 and 3-star guys turning into, what could potentially be seen as a 4-star type of player.
Absolutely. What they've been able to do with their developing players, like they had 2 guys go in the early first round last year in the draft. So that speaks a lot to their development. Now, I don't know where either of those 2 guys were ranked when they came into Northwestern, but I have to imagine, like you said, that they were those 2, 3-star type players, because that's the type of guy Northwestern gets.
Right, exactly.
And they also have arguably one of the best coaches in college football too.
Absolutely.
And that 100%. Helps recruiting a lot. Do you think that Illinois or Northern Illinois, Boomy's alumni, have any chance of being competitive?
I think Illinois showed something this past Saturday. It'll be interesting for me to see how they continue to progress. I think Brett Bielema is going to do great things there. I think he's a great football coach. The only issue I have with this past game is I think Nebraska is really bad. Yeah. So I think it's a wait and see type thing. Now this Saturday they're playing UTSA, Texas San Antonio, who I have winning Conference USA. So I think that's going to be a really, really interesting game, because UTSA has a running back, Sincere McCormick, who is an All-American level player. He was second in the nation in rushing last year. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how they compete on that end. And then, like I said, with Nebraska being a lower level team, I think we saw that Illinois can obviously hang with and handle those level of teams in the Big Ten. It's just going to be, can they be a middle of the pack, or are they just the best of the lower end teams?
Yeah, I think in Nebraska, it speaks volumes when you get caught cheating, despite the fact that you've won like 6 games since you've been there. Scott Frost is not going to make it through this season. There's just no, I don't see there's any way Scott
cheat,
Frost
at least, if you're going to cheat, at least win.
Yeah, right, seriously.
Right. Well, something I talked about in one of the previous episodes of my podcast, I had my cousin on the show, and we are both diehard Michigan football fans. I grew up in Flint, Michigan. I've been a Michigan fan my whole life. And we both hate Jim Harbaugh. We are not Jim Harbaugh fans. I've never been a Jim Harbaugh fan ever. But I saw an amazing stat that Scott Frost would need to go 37-1 in his next 38 games to tie the record that Jim Harbaugh has at Michigan. So
that's insane.
So as upset as I am about Jim Harbaugh, it could be a hell of a lot worse.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
And am I wrong, or was Nebraska the school that, did they hire Schiano?
Oh no, that was
who was
Vanderbilt,
that?
wasn't it?
Rutgers.
And then the fan base got mad and they fired him.
Yeah,
that was bad. Yeah, in Nebraska, I mean, Scott Frost played quarterback there. He takes UCF to their own national championship, and then he goes to Nebraska.
National championship.
Yeah, as I put in quotes, it's just, there's no way that with the outside controversy going on, them getting put on probation, and the fact that they're absolutely horrible, there's no way Scott Frost is getting through this.
The only way he keeps his job is he has a $20 million buyout.
That's true.
Yeah, that might do it.
Might do it. It's going to be very hard to pay somebody $20 million to not coach your football team.
Isn't that crazy that at some point in life, Scott Frost will be getting $20 million to do what he's doing right now?
If any college football program out there right now wants to pay me $20 million to not coach their football team, my phone is always open. So I will.
Where do I sign? Where do I sign?
1,000%. Before we move on to the Power 5 schools, Bobby, you're doing some stuff with the UConn football team. Is that correct?
Yes. It's through Sidelines UConn. I'm partnering up with them throughout the season and breaking down every program they play throughout weekly. Obviously, last week, if anybody saw that game, it was not pretty.
So obviously, UConn's had their struggles. Is there hope for the Huskies in the future? Obviously, I think this year is going to be tough for them, but is there some hope for UConn?
I really think that there is. I think there's 4 games on their schedule this year that are just guaranteed losses, and that Fresno State game was one of them. Okay. In my opinion, they also play at Clemson, at UCF, and then they play Houston later on in the year. So that's going to be difficult for them. But their next upcoming game is against Holy Cross, and then they play Yale. They play at Vanderbilt. They play Middle Tennessee. So there are some games on their schedule where they can definitely win. And they have a running back in Kevin Mensah, who is about 1,100 yards away from breaking the school record for rushing yards. So that at least have a horse that they can ride when they need to.
Oh, definitely. It's good to hear because there's been the years where UConn was playing in bowl games, and then it obviously hasn't been like that. All right, Bobby, we got Power 5 conference winners. We and Zach are going to bebop back and forth with the Power 5 school. You just tell us who you think is going to win that conference. You ready?
All right, let's go.
All right. Obviously, we got to start off with the big dogs, the SEC. Who's winning the SEC this year?
I'm not going to be the idiot who doesn't say Alabama. So until Alabama does otherwise, you have to say Alabama. Now, Georgia is very, very good. Georgia's very good, but it'll be. I think the main thing for Georgia, we'll find out this week just how good they are.
Yeah, I think this week 1 test is huge, but with Clemson, but we'll see.
How about the ACC?
Now, originally, I've gone back and forth on this one. I've had some in-depth conversations with a handful of different people in the college football world about this. And I've been saying Clemson, but I've been saying Clemson and North Carolina are both undefeated going to the ACC championship to play each other. And I've been saying that Sam Howell is my Heisman front runner. So if Sam
the next
Howell,
segment, but we'll take it.
so I then have to say if Sam Howell is my guy, I then have to stand on that soapbox and go with it. So I'm going to go with North Carolina. All
right,
like I said, with both teams being undefeated, playing in the ACC championship game.
That would make for a hell of an ACC championship game. All right, moving on. The Big Ten. Is anybody going to dethrone Ohio State this year?
I think the gap between Ohio State and everyone else in the Big Ten is bigger than in any conference in America. I do not think anybody in the Big Ten is close to Ohio State, to be honest with you.
I cannot disagree with you there. What about the Big 12?
My pick here might surprise a couple people. I'm going with Iowa State. I'm not sold on Spencer Rattler. I'm not sold on Oklahoma. I feel like every year they find. I mean, I know that they've been in the playoff recently, but I feel like every year if anybody ever saw, is it QB11, that show on or QB1, the show on Netflix? Yeah. With Spencer Rattler when he was in high school, and I just couldn't stand him after that. I'm just I can't root for this kid.
Absolutely. And then the last one, Bobby, the Pac-12. Who's walking away with the Pac-12 title this year?
Again, this one might surprise some people too. I think Washington wins the Pac-12. I think Washington can potentially go undefeated. And I think they win at Michigan in week 2, and they get Oregon at home. They get Arizona State at home. Their toughest games are at home. So I really think with that defense that they have that they can get it done.
Interesting. I did not think you were going to go with Washington, but when you get those tough ones in that conference at home, that makes a huge difference. Huge difference. So with that being said, Zach, go ahead. I'm sorry, man.
No, you're good. Hey, speaking of that, any dark horses like Coastal Carolina or BYU or like a Washington, like you just said, that you think will happen this year?
This right
I
here
know you're
is
a
my
big
dark horse.
Chanticleers fan.
I am a big Chanticleers fan. I've over the past 5 or so years, I've watched more Sun Belt football than probably anyone else in the Midwest. Um, I think Coastal Carolina has a shot to run the table. I think Louisiana has a shot to run the table. I think that they win at Texas this coming week, and I actually have them winning by 2 touchdowns. I think Texas
Wow.
is the most overrated team in college football. I think Liberty has a shot to be a spoiler. I think Appalachian State out of the Sun Belt could be a spoiler. Cincinnati is a team that I think can run the table as well. They play at Indiana and at Notre Dame back-to-back weeks. They have a clear path to the college football playoff if they're able to win both of those games.
That would be crazy. I know, especially you talk about those teams. Cincinnati has, a guy who's going to be mentioned in some Heisman stuff. Liberty's quarterback has been mentioned in some Heisman,
Yes.
candidacy. And then obviously with the resurgence of the Sun Belt with Coastal Carolina, and obviously, Louisiana's always in a bowl game. Appalachian State, ever since they beat, your Wolverines back in, the mid 2000s.
I was at that game in 2007.
Oh my God, that's a heartbreaker. But literally ever since then, they've been around,
Absolutely.
That would have to be one of the worst. That would be the worst feeling too, because you're just like going to the game, going like, this can't be. Yeah, nothing's gonna happen. Let's have some fun. Let's drink some beer, and then boom.
Right. It was one of those things where in one breath it's like, wow, that just happened. We really just lost to this team. But in the next breath, it's also like, wow, I just saw probably
like the coolest
one thing.
Yeah, the coolest ever upset, even though it had to come at, the hands of your favorite team. So with that being said, you said the winners of the conferences. Who would be your Final Four at the beginning of the season?
I got to say Alabama, number one. I mean, until they're dethroned, I got to roll with them. Then I'm rolling with Ohio State. I just think that I don't know if there's a game on their schedule where they can be beat this year.
Okay.
The toughest game on their schedule, I think, will be at Indiana. But then I'm rolling with North Carolina, who I have beating Clemson in the ACC.
Wow.
And then my spoiler is the Cincinnati Bearcats being the first group of five team to make it. And the reason I say that is because, like I said just a little bit ago, they have that path with the game at Indiana, at Notre Dame, and then 2 weeks after that, they play UCF.
Okay. All right. I don't hate that at all. I don't hate that. So the Washington Huskies are not.
No, I feel like they're going to lose a game, and if a Pac-12 team loses a game, there's no way they're getting in.
Yeah, that's understandable. So you said it earlier, though. I'm going to steal Zach's question here. You said Spencer Howell, right, from North Carolina, is your guy in the Heisman. Who would you say are your top 3 Heisman picks as of right now before the season truly gets rolling?
I think Sam Howell, like I said, that's my guy. I think the Malik Willis from Liberty is going to put up ridiculous numbers. So I think if Liberty is able to run the table, which they very well could, I think he's going to put himself in that conversation, just because he's going to put up absurd numbers. Even though I'm not a fan of him, I got to say Spencer Rattler. I mean, he's going to put up great numbers, and Oklahoma's going to win games. If you want somebody who's not a quarterback, I would have to go with Breece Hall, the running back from Iowa. He's going to put up great this year. And like I said, I have Iowa State winning the Big 12, so I think that's a guy that consideration. And then my dark horse that no one is talking about, I'm very high on Boston College. I think they're going to be really, really good this year.
You might be the first
Phil
person I've
Yurkovich.
ever heard say those words when it comes to college football, ever.
And I'm sure. Their schedule sets up really, really well. They have to go to Clemson, but I think they're actually good enough to not only make that a game, but potentially pull off that upset.
They gave Clemson a game last year, didn't they?
Yes, they did. And I think Phil Yurkovich at quarterback is going to really do some great things this year. And they have a wide receiver, Zay Jones, who's really good too.
Fantastic. So you can take some of those to the sports book and maybe sprinkle a little money on Bobby's Heisman candidates there. Zach, anything else?
I think that's about it. Like you said, I think I might be putting some money on some of these Heisman picks. Maybe some long shots, like you said, with Cincinnati to get into the playoff. That's got to be some good value.
Oh,
yes,
without doubt.
And another thing I want to add to is, like I said, with watching so many of the Sun Belt games, I'm going to stand on my soapbox when it comes to the Sun Belt. The top three teams in the Sun Belt, Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, and Appalachian State, are fantastic football teams.
Yes.
And all three of those teams legitimately could make a run. Coastal Carolina's schedule this year isn't very good, so they're almost assuredly going to win 10, 11, 12 games. They go to Buffalo and they go to App State. But other than that, their schedule sets up really well for them. App State has to play at Miami, so that will obviously be a test for them. And Louisiana plays at Texas week 1. They play at Liberty later in the
You heard it here, folks. Sun Belt Conference of Champions. Well, special thanks to Bobby Wilson. Make sure you follow TNT College Football Podcast on Twitter at TNT College Foot 1. Follow Bobby on Twitter at Coach B Will. We'll be checking in with Bobby as the season goes on. Make sure you check out his Twitter. Seriously, do some scrolling. I know you're sitting at work, not doing a whole lot. Go to at TNT College Foot 1. Start scrolling. Read some of Bobby's reviews on these teams. Take some of those, to the sports book and make sure you're following along because, like I said, this man has covered literally every single college football team in the country. So he knows more than you. I promise you that. So, Bobby, thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to meet up about midway through the season and talk about what we've seen so far.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Of course, man. We'll make sure we do this again. Thank you so much to our guy, Bobby Wilson from TNT College Football Podcast. Make sure you follow them on Twitter at TNT College Foot 1. Bobby Wilson's is at Coach B Will, WIL. Thanks so much to Bobby. Now I'm even more pumped for college football to start here this weekend. But also a big thank you to our newest sponsor, Connect Roasters. They've got the best coffee around. They work with our guy, Dom Frederick, Ian Happ, so you know it's good stuff. They love it. Zach loves it. Zach's mom loves it. It cannot go wrong. I know it was actually a part of a charity golf outing me and Zach were at this past weekend.
Yeah, it was a golf outing for my aunt who passed away. We've done it the last 2 years, called the Duffer Open. And the guy who actually won it was one of my aunt's friends, and he lives in Chicago. And he was actually saying that the reason he got it was because he's seen it at some of the one of the local places, which is one of the places I'm guessing you just said.
It's probably either Dom's or Foxtrot Market where you can find their product.
He's got it before, and that's why he bid on it, was because of the Connect Roaster coffee. And then and also what was inside the
I was going to say that was awesome as well.
What would you say? Basket was the Muddy Otter. Also had some of their beautiful stuff in there, and then an Ian Happ signed baseball card.
Yes, that was fantastic. Make sure you check them out on their website at connectroasters.com. Follow them on Twitter at Connect Roasters. And like I said, you can find their products in Foxtrot Market or Dom's, or if you happen to be in the Cubs clubhouse at Wrigley, you can catch some there. But make sure to also join the Home Run Club and receive a discount every time Ian Happ hits a home run. Especially make sure you sign up next time he goes to Cincinnati because he loves hitting dingers there. So shout out to Connect Roasters. Absolutely incredible coffee. But Zach, it has come time for the TCF top 3 of college football stadiums / atmospheres. These are probably some of the bigger name, big hitters we might not be the biggest fans of, but we know that the stadium and kind of the crowd there. And we're going to go ahead and assume this is in a regular year with full fans, not like last year. So, Zach, would you like to go first or you want me to lead us off?
I'll go first. And it's a place that I think me and you might be going to. I know you're going to. It's the Big House. It looks amazing. Yes. It's one of those places you got to go to. Michigan, NIU this year. I know Boomy's going to be going. Hopefully I can go. We'll see what's going on there. But the Big House, I've heard it's just amazing. It's one of those places you have to go to if you are a college football fan.
That's a great pick, Zach. And, like you said, we're hoping to go to the NIU Michigan game. And obviously it's like one of the largest, seating capacities in the country. It's absolutely anytime. And Michigan hasn't been great lately, but still they pack it every weekend. That's a great pick. I'm going to take my homer pick here. I'm going to go with the Swamp, Ben Hill Griffin Stadium in Florida. And I think I can even set this aside, even as being a Florida fan. Anytime you watch a nighttime SEC game at the Swamp, it just seems insane. It doesn't matter if they're playing Florida Atlantic or Alabama. There's never an empty seat in the house. And it just, the Gator Chomp and Mr. Two Bits and everything that they do out there, it just seems like everybody's super into the game. Even when Florida had some down years in the last, 5 or 6 years, it was still packed. So it's definitely on my bucket list with, being a Florida fan. But I mean, every time you watch an SEC game at the Swamp, it's just insane. I'm going to go with my number 2. I'm going to go. I had wrote this down and I've decided I can't take them because I hate them. I'm going to go with, I hate these guys too, but I'm going to go Beaver Stadium at Penn State. Just because, and I know this
is the white out there is insane.
Insane. And they always do it at night. And it always seems like it's a big opponent, Michigan or Ohio State or whoever, the big hitter of that year is in the Big Ten. It always seems like it's there and it's a whiteout game. Obviously, I hate Penn State, but you got to respect. I mean, that place is enormous too. And when they get the whiteout going, it's nuts. I think it's the best, one of the best atmospheres in the Big Ten.
Yeah, that place would be pretty cool to see a game from. I'm going to go with Tiger Stadium, LSU. I've heard that it's just the most amazing atmosphere. I did that in Michigan is 2 places I've got to go to see a college football game. Just the atmosphere, the tailgate before everything.
Absolutely. Zach, I'm going to take, or you get one more, don't you?
Oh, yeah, I get
you get your
last pick. Ooh, this is going to be tough. There's so many.
There's a lot of good ones.
I would love to go see a game at Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't like Notre Dame, but I'm
not a big fan of Notre Dame, whatever, but it just looks like an awesome place, the campus, everything.
Yeah, and all, touchdown Jesus and, the Golden Dome and all that good stuff. Yeah, and that's the nice thing is it's like 3.5 hours from us. We could easily make it to a game. I don't hate that pick at all, even though I'm not the biggest Notre Dame fan in the world. I'm going to go with my 3rd round pick, and this is going to be a little off the beaten path, but I'm going to go with BYU. And I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures. BYU's football stadium literally sits at the base of a mountain. And I know this is, my pick is BYU, but I can say the same about Colorado, where the Buffaloes play, and then also Air Force. Me and Zach actually drove by Air Force's stadium when we were up in Colorado this year. And it also, all 3 of those schools sit right at the base of a mountain when it's nighttime and you get the light gleaming from the stadium and kind of reflects off the mountains. And then during the daytime, obviously, it's just as awesome as well. But BYU, of those 3 stadiums, I think BYU's got the best atmosphere, and they probably had the most consistent success over the last 2 decades. Were there any ones you had on your honorable mention list, Zach?
Not really. I mean, Ohio State would be cool to go to. UCF would probably have a pretty cool stadium.
Who is that?
Is it UCF?
Oh,
Central
I think the
Florida?
one you're thinking of is actually what I had written down. It was actually FAU, Florida Atlantic,
FAU,
is
there we
right
go.
on the
Sorry.
beach.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, it's literally like the stadium, and then there's like a patch of grass, and then there's the beach. I actually had that one on my list. I also had the Coliseum at USC. Obviously, it's one of the oldest stadiums in the country. And even though I hate both of them, Death Valley at Clemson, Kyle Field at Texas A&M, and then also there's another cool. I think it's San Jose State has a really cool atmosphere outside. And then if you're just talking about like tailgating, you can talk about, like basically all of the SEC schools, Neyland Stadium at Tennessee, basically any of those big hitters. Texas has always seemed pretty cool to me. And then even like the ones, so I know this is not like me, I don't like the cold, but like a December game at Minnesota Golden Gophers would be pretty sweet, tailgating out in the snow, and, it's probably freezing, but whatever. That would be a good one as well. Any others that I missed, Zach?
I think that's about it. What we figured out is we need to go to more college football games.
Absolutely. That is going to be put on the company credit card here once we get that rolling. So, but that was episode 112 of Typical Chicago Fans. Special thank you, a shout out to our guy, Bobby Wilson from TNT Football Podcast, for coming on and talking with us tonight. Make sure you follow them on Twitter. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at typical_Chicago. You can follow Zach at ZLilia TCF. You can follow myself at Boomy TCF. Head to the Facebook, Instagram pages. Type in Typical Chicago Fans. Give those pages a like. Subscribe to the page for all of our content in video form. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify, Spreaker, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Thank you for joining us for episode 112 of Typical Chicago Fans. We love you all.
Peace.